he did. Hello, good evening, everybody. It is Monday, May 20th, 2024, and this is the meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District Board of Directors. So everybody's ready to go? Is anybody up there yet? We can call the meeting to order. Now it is 5:03. You want to call roll?
Yes.
Thank you.
Director Oglesby,
Here.
Director Adams,
Here.
Director Paul,
Here.
Director Eisenhart,
Here.
Director Edwards,
Here.
Vice Chair Riley,
Here.
Chair Anderson.
Here.
All board members are present.
Thank you very much. So do we have any public at this time?
We have one, the executive director of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber. And I think Monica will probably want to log off as we go into closed session and re-log in at 6.
Okay, so any questions? Anybody requesting something to say at this point?
Chair Anderson, I see no raised hands.
Thank you. So we are now entering closed session.
Chair Anderson, I see 1 minute to lock the meeting.
session. It is May 20th, little after 6 PM. So the meeting is called to order.
Recording in progress.
I'll laugh at myself here. So it's time to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Did I miss something? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I seem to have missed the roll call. We took the roll call during our closed session. So unless there's a reason to take it again, all
Actually, correction, I think we took it at the open part preceding
part.
closed session, so it was part of the
yes,
open meeting.
thank you. Right.
Correct.
Thank
It
you.
is
You're
part of
right.
the open meeting, and for the record, all board members are present.
Yes, I was gonna say that too. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
There will be a correction on item 20, an action item, and I'll explain it when the item
Okay.
comes up.
All right. If there's anybody in the public who'd like to address the board on anything that is not any of the items that we'll be voting on, just the general items, you can limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Chair Anderson, I see no raised hands.
Thank you. So it's time to move to the consent calendar. Is there anyone from the board, from the public that wishes to pull an item?
Number 9 for me.
Number
Item
9? Okay,
Question on number 5.
question on number 5. So would you like to start with the
Yes.
question?
Yes, I'm just wondering, I see that we've had JEA since 2009
Mhm.
as our lobbyists for the Sacramento state issues that we have. And I'm just wondering how long it has been since we've gone out for a request for proposal?
So we didn't, it was not a formal RFQ for state services, but we did ask for some quotes 7 years ago. So it's been a while.
Okay. And then I see that I was confused about whether or not the retainer is 4,500 a month or 54,000 annually.
Right? Did
I
they come out
should
the
have done-
same?
I should have- I was
They
just
do,
saying, yeah.
but
They do.
you're saying is it locked in or?
Well,
Yeah. Well, it would be an annual engagement letter at a monthly fee. So as long as those two come out to the same.
But it says here they proposed a retainer of $4,500 a month.
Yeah.
And what are we currently paying them?
3,800, and we had only raised it once in the 11 years, so this year represents a higher percentage increase than the Ferguson group does, for example, but it's still consistent with market at the annual amount for what we're getting. But both questions are valid. Do we want to go out at this point, I'm pretty happy with them because of certain relationships that I don't want to get into that are really good right now. But your relationships are only as good as who doesn't get elected next time and so forth. But they've been pretty outstanding for us. I did mention to the Legislative Advocacy Committee that they were very helpful when we thought we were moving special legislation forward, both last year and this year, and working with committee. So I think they've done well for the district, but I'd be happy to we can go out. We're at the juncture where it's time to renew the annual contract. So we could do it as a one time and go out next year, or we could just put a hold and go out.
Do they do grant research for us?
Yeah, they do. They don't do grant writing. So the Ferguson group at the federal level, if we wanted them to, would do grant writing for us. But both parties do a lot of grant research, and recent announcements that we might not have seen, we get forwarded, and yeah.
Do we meet with success from their grant identifications?
The success that we've had, we kind of knew about. They also have identified things that we've not had success with. There's a Pacific Coast Steelhead program that's managed by the state, and it's no fault of our own, but we've never been able to win. And it's because of a limited amount of money. And they tend to keep funding programs that they've previously funded, because the grant's about to expire and they want to keep the program going. So it's hard to break in. And they think that we have money, which, a lot of these programs don't. But no, I can't put my finger on any statewide grant program where they've been instrumental, even though we've been successful. Marine has been managing the IRWM process, so that's the geographic money from like Prop 1. And then we successfully took up a Department of Water Resources grant application because we're water people and we knew what to do on that. So yeah, we're not getting a whole lot of grant guidance out of them.
Let me ask about the $4,500 a month. You said the last time.
Yeah, so I inherited them and went for about 8 years at $3,000 a month.
Mhm.
And then when we decided that, or they decided that they had been underpaid, I said, well, what do you want? This was probably 3 years ago. And they said $4,200 a month. And I said, well, can you live with $3,600 a month, which is where I think they're at right now. So at that time they said, yeah, sure, fine. So they're still trying to get back to that, what was then 3 years ago, 42 to 45.
So this would be, if they had gotten there, this would be right in the same chain
Yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
Anybody have
I
any
don't have
other?
any additional questions. I just wanted to get some additional information.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay.
I think.
Just item,
Yeah, number 9.
just item number 9, since it's $333,000 is on consent, I just feel like a quick report on it from our engineer. I know this was an emergency item that came up. I know it went through water supply, finance and administration, and now for the final thing to the public. So can we have a quick report?
I'll do my best to be quick. It's not always in an engineer's wheelhouse. As the board may remember, in early March, we reported that our 2 remaining ASR injection wells, ASR 1 and 2, had seen a significant decline in capacity, and that we need to rehabilitate them, which for rehabilitation, you pull the pump assembly, which is about 500 feet in depth. They scrub the screens with some mechanical devices, and you put down some chemical to prevent biofouling. Given the lack of legally available water supply, the board found that this is an emergency situation and directed staff to seek quotations. We reached out to 3 locally available drillers. All 3 responded, and staff is recommending utilizing the lowest priced, the bidder or the quoter who had the lowest price, Majora Brothers Drilling. Majora Brothers is definitely qualified. They have done rehabilitations in large diameter injection wells. The We estimate that the most that would be spent this fiscal year would be $70,000. And we have a budget available in an ASR line item that was not used this fiscal year for easement agreement. The remaining amount of the contract is budgeted in the next fiscal year. At the finance committee, there was a question about our maintenance practices. And I wanted to just talk real quickly on that. We have daily maintenance procedures during injection. Every day somebody is physically out in the field, taking system measurements, doing visual checks, audible checks, listening for anything that sounds funny. And additionally, tactile, making sure that vibration is not excessive. And that daily data gets analyzed as well as reported. During injection season, weekly, and outside of injection season, monthly, we do a maintenance procedure called back flushing. And that is when the well is pumped at about twice the rate of injection. We do that because over time, if you're injecting water, there are small fines, and you end up plugging off the injection pathways into the formation. So we pump it to kind of reverse flow and get that capacity back. It provides a significant amount of data over the 4 hours of back flushing. The operators are out there monitoring, and the data is analyzed to determine whether or not any action needs to be taken. Pulling the pump assemblies is risky and it's expensive. So we try to only do that in an emergency situation or when we're seeing a capacity decline, or are aware of any type of mechanical limitation we may be running across. I'm requesting the board to authorize us to enter into a contract with Majora Brothers Drilling for rehabilitations of ASR 1 and 2 for an amount of $302,985 with a 10% contingency for a total amount not to exceed $333,283.50. Are there any questions?
Yes, is that reimbursable?
Oh, thank you. Yes, by the ASR operating and maintenance agreement signed by both CalAm and the Water Management District, it is reimbursable work.
Okay, and when will we pick up that money? Once the project is completed or right after?
Per the agreement, we're allowed to invoice them quarterly for reimbursement.
Okay, thank you, and a good job on the staff report. I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions on the board? No. Okay,
I move approval of the consent items. I'll second.
all
1
those,
through 12.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 We need to vote.
Just wondering, did we take it out to the public?
We certainly do.
She has already taken out to the public, asking if there anything you want to pull it.
Okay. So, okay, yeah, all those in favor, we voted. All those opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair, I've received a text from one of our attendees saying that she's experiencing difficulty raising her hand. Is there any feature that you can see, Sarah, that would prevent them from raising hands?
I had that happen too. It's not working.
Yeah, Melody, try raising your hand again or finding the feature.
I can allow her to talk.
Well, I don't know if it was
It's a little tricky to find.
just
it.
Yeah, there she is.
There actually is no button. There's nothing to raise your hand. And I checked someone else's computer and they're having the same issue.
Oh, boy.
It's kind of buried. It might be under the green.
Yes, it's below here.
Underwear?
Should be show up at the bottom of your screen.
No, there's nothing there.
You may have to wiggle your mouse.
Wiggling mouse, still
Oh.
nothing.
So you,
Never seen
The
it like
far,
that.
the far right one says more. And if you click there, I think that
yeah, there should be a taskbar at the bottom that maybe you've just
the one that says more.
eliminated.
All right, yeah.
Well, we can't
Yeah.
solve that from here. Sorry, Melody.
Okay, I don't think, but you may not get anybody commenting because I'm not the only one.
Hmm.
And does she have a
Do you
comment?
have a comment, Melody? We can hear you.
No, I didn't. I just was like, there's no way to comment. And that was my comment.
Okay, thank you.
John Lear just texted. He's also an attendee right now, and it does not give him the option to raise his hand either.
All right, well, we'll look into it. If anybody has a pressing need to speak, you can text me.
Or how about the chat box? Will it show up in the chat box?
It's good. Well, let's move on.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll move on. The general manager, time for the general manager's report.
We'll wait for Sarah to put that up on the screen while she's trying to do 4 things at once. Great, so this is a report on the status of compliance with both the state board order as well as the Seaside Basin decision. Josh, I'm right here. You can't hear me? Couple of takeaways on this chart. As you look at the Laguna Seca, you can see that that negative is quite a bit smaller than we're used to in the past as we get into the second half of the water year. And the reason is that it only represents really at this point Hidden Hills. The Ryan Ranch and the Bishop system were converted to an interconnected pipe. And so those wells are no longer in usage. And in March, when we had the report on all of the well usage, you would have seen the basically zeros for Ryan Ranch and Bishop. And so they are receiving non-Calam or non-Carmel River sourced other supply, meaning pure water Monterey or Seaside native water from other Seaside pumps through the pipeline. And that's really reduced the deficit spending, if you will, that we used to see in the Laguna Seca sub-area, because they were ratcheted down under the adjudication to zero a number of years ago. The other thing to look at is the Carmel River Basin, the 1,267. We are starting to get concerned again that Calam may be having difficulty fully leveraging the river. It's been a good year in the Carmel Valley in that their pumps, there haven't been any unforced outages of any length of time. But because it's a wet year, some water gets labeled to be table 13 water right instead of the fundamental water right. We did like 600 plus acre feet last month, but a lot of that went to injection for ASR. So what we'd really like to see is a better use of the Carmel River water right, the basic water right, the 3,376. Obviously, they're going to have to rely on that next month in June because we won't be delivering pure water Monterey water to them. We've met the 3,500 number. But again, it's something we need to look at. There's a variety of reasons that it might be transpiring in front of our eyes again. But as we head into quarterly water budget talks and everything, one of the trade-offs is always going to be National Marine Fisheries Service will say, I don't want you to start using more river water as the days get hotter and the conditions get worse. So next month will be telling because we'll have full utilization of the wells in the upper Carmel watershed as well as the lower Carmel watershed. So CalAm should be able to collect more water from the river, and we will have shut down ASR injection at the end of this month. So, June should be a telling month to see if we can autocorrect a little bit. So we're watching that one. Next slide, please, Sarah.
Just back up quickly, may I? This is not a new issue.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, last year, you're never going to hit the water right spot on because then you run the risk of exceeding it too. But last year they left approximately 950 acre feet of the Carmel River water right untapped, and then hit the ASR reserve, which, again, we talked about. It's like not cashing your paycheck and taking it out of your savings account. It's like, try to use your annual allotment that renews every year instead of your drought reserve. So, hopefully through the quarterly water budget group that, they can have these conversations and find a way. And as I said, right about now in May, we're hitting our 3,500 delivery requirement for the fiscal year on Pure Water Monterey. So there will be a week of May and then a whole month of June where we'll make none of those deliveries. So they'll find a way to make up through the system somehow. But trying to go all the way into July, August, September, the hottest months, even though, the second word in water right is right. You have the right to take that water. The fisheries people in the room will still say, we prefer you don't take that water. So.
Yeah.
On this one, just to point out a couple of interesting things. The table 13, 315 acre feet. That's the fourth month in a row that we've had more than enough water in the river that water right kicks in. And so in April, they took down 97 acre feet under that water right instead of under the main river water right. And I already mentioned that Pure Water Monterey recovery won't change much in June. You'll see some change in the June report for May, but we will go to zero, or CalAm will go to zero for recovery. Next slide.
Can we pause before we go to the next one? Can you say something about the Sand City desal
Yep.
and why
There
these
has been,
problems continue?
yeah, well, it's the same issue. And I don't know, Josh, if you want to jump on your feet or have any explanation, feel free to say no, but there's been no production from Sand City desal since right before Christmas.
Do we know the reason?
My understanding was that they're waiting on getting the replacement well approved through the Division of Drinking Water so that they can have enough source water to meet their discharge requirements as well. And DDW kind of says, well, what's your first priority? And that was ASR well number 4. And I think bringing a couple other wells in the Carmel Valley back online. And so it's kind of like getting in the queue. That's my understanding, but I don't have any additional information.
And we've also done quite a few improvements to the actual plant itself.
To the plant.
Yeah, they've done upgrades throughout. So it's going to be online.
Soon? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember investments in improving the infrastructure, and that's why I was wondering.
You got to ask the same question naturally. But we've satisfied our annual obligations to it. So that's one of the things that I asked too, is by being offline, we now not providing the Sand City our obligations. Do that, and we have for the year. Yeah. Just because we over provided for we're at a surplus for a while. So even though these months we're not providing water, we're still providing. We're achieving our goals. So when this is over, we should have a higher functioning upgrades.
So sometime in the next month or so, you think? Yeah. Okay.
And it's not the worst thing in the world because it's not the cheapest water in the system. So, best would be, don't over pump the Seaside Basin, take everything you can. And second best is take everything you can from the river, because those are the two lowest costs. So,
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
next slide, Sarah. So again, this is, there we go. 6 months, I'm sorry, 7 months into the water year, so just over half a year. This is a proxy for water demand. And the weird thing, weird in a good way, is we're now 304 acre feet below last year. And last month we were 210 below last year. So we continue to outpace last year, and last year's overall demand or production for customer service was significantly below 2022's amount. So I don't want to conjecture that we're actually entering the effects of some of the water conservation programs becoming permanent, or the pricing of water causing permanent reductions. But we haven't had as much rain as we had last year. So to be outpacing last year is not simply irrigation load. It's got to be something else going on. And the economy is not in recession right now. So there's some mystery behind the numbers. So we'll see if this plays out through the end of the year. Next slide.
Wait, can I just stop
Yeah.
there? So that trend over the last 3 years that you have just described, seemingly inexplicable.
So what we saw,
isn't that something that's worth really digging into for all the reasons we've talked about at a number of different meetings in the last
Yep.
60 days?
so you look at the curve, and it's been about 8 years now that we've been nestled between, and this is again using these numbers, which is called production for customer service. So it's what's going into the distribution system to feed all demand. So it's doesn't include losses. Losses will happen and so forth. So I always view it as it's the best measure of supply. This is what you have to feed the system. And we've seen it pretty much level out. And then last year it dropped a few hundred acre feet. But we got under 10,000 acre feet about 8 years ago, about 9,800. And the recent 5-year average is just over 9,800. But the recent 3-year average is like 9,500. And the last 2 years are under 9,500. And last year we said, oh, well, we're down several hundred because it was a wet year, and 21 and 22 were drought years or drier years. I said, oh, that must be irrigation load. But now we're below last year, which was a wetter year. And that's the inexplicable part that we probably will need to investigate more. And it's, elasticity, price of water continues to go up. If you read those Treasury reports, the number of $500 rebates has gone way up, and we know what those are. Those are high efficiency clothes washers, almost every single one of them. So, and if you take out an old top load washing machine, those were like 40 gallons per load. And the new high efficiency clothes washers are 9. There are some that are in the 16 range, but call it 9 to 16. I mean, that's a huge change. So you do, a couple hundred of those in a year, and that's permanent savings. So, but yes, if this keeps up and now we've got these 2 years that went further down, I think we'll have to try to discern whether it was irrigation or something else.
Sure.
Yeah, we thought we found the floor, I guess. And then last year we went below where we thought the floor was, and now we're going below it again. This is rainfall. Looks like we're going to end up in above normal based on hydrologic data. We're currently at 115% of long-term average. And then the next chart. Seldom do we get May rain, but we did get a little over half an inch that first week of May. And that brings us up to just under 25 inches total for the year. And remember, the long-term average is about 21.8 or 20.8 0.88 or something like that. So above average. And then finally, stream flow. Next chart. And you can see April, the blue bar far exceeded the average for April, which is the red bar. It's almost as if we've now fully made up for December and January, where it took a little while to get the stream flow going, and now we're catching up. But if you look at average for the remainder of the year, there's no way we'll get out of the above average, I'm sorry, above normal to the wet year. We're going to end up in above normal. So,
Mhm.
and then finally, ASR injection. You got my email during the week. We broke through to our third best year ever. Partnership with Cal-Am. They've run the Carmel Valley wells very well this year.
Great.
No major hiccups, except out here at General Jim Moore on the injection side, some hiccups. But we're going to end up probably around 1,500 acre feet, which will be just a little less than last year. I think last year was 1,656, something like that, which was our second best year ever. So all good.
Great.
Brief report on water supply projects. Just that the PUC supply and demand proceeding is about closed. Reply briefs are due on a week from tomorrow on the 28th. And then that's it. Everything that could be said on the subject will have been said on the subject, and it will be up to the administrative law judge to write a proposed decision.
So it probably won't be no part two to that one.
Or a part three, I guess, would be, yeah, there's a couple of parties that have asked for a third phase. I don't place a lot of hope in it, but you never know. I mean,
Okay.
they could be compelling. On Pure Water Monterey expansion, we did a press release to celebrate the fact that you can actually see things getting built now. So that hopefully will be picked up by the local papers sometime this week and probably in an email blast. And then on desal, tomorrow night at Monterey City Council, there will be a presentation by Cal-Am on their view of the progress on the desalination project. And I could do a great Karnak and predict what's going to be said, but I won't. We'll just wait for it to occur.
Will there be any counter comments?
Pardon me?
Will there be any counter comments?
No, it's just a presentation that they requested, similar to what was requested at the Board of Supervisors, March 26th. Very similar presentation.
And just for the record, can we be included in that? Can you set up a presentation for this board to hear
Well,
the nice things, you know?
yeah, we have on our to-do list to do a similar effort on a couple of fronts to visit all the city councils and actually we'll open the door to the county. They don't typically want to hear much from the peninsula, but this may be a good time on the allocation process and the lifting of the CDO process that are more important issues for us.
Okay, the question was basically, can Cal-Am come to this board and give a
Oh, here,
presentation? Yeah, that they're giving out there, give them an invitation.
That one, that way.
Just see if they want to come to talk to us a little bit, like they're talking to the cities,
Sure.
you know?
I'll extend that invitation. Get Spencer to do it. Trial by fire.
Just want to know.
When were you thinking of doing the presentation to the cities, like in July, August?
Yeah, I've had a
September?
couple of sidebar conversations with some of the board. You heard me use the term dominoes earlier on a different subject, but we've got the issue of the county housing element, draft housing element, and what it means. We have a letter that we're going to submit before June 6th on part of the water issues. It's creating a perception of a problem because it pushes us further into having to be the adult and say, well, I don't care what and it's not just the county, but let's just say we don't strongly believe in the numbers in a draft housing element, and we say we're not willing to allocate all the water you need for all this housing because we don't believe you. There are a couple of those situations, and so we've been a little stymied as to how we want to approach that. But we need to get it done. We need to call our meeting. The meeting I was at right before this was over in Monterey, and the mayor and the city manager agreed that they want us to get moving on it so they can at least know what they're looking at. So I think we're just going to make a proposal based on what we've seen, but we also need to be supportive of the housing elements, whether we believe them or not. I mean, that's the issue. And so we've got to draw some, we've got to be supportive at the foundation, but I don't think we need to be overly supportive. I think what we've agreed on earlier in our discussion has been, we'll allocate some of the new water from Pure Water Monterey expansion. It's enough water to work with to get started. And then if you come anywhere close to your housing numbers, then you'll be first in line for getting more water. And then the race is on to see who can actually perform. But there are huge differences in approach in these housing elements. Seaside was great. They identified their pipeline projects like Campus Town, and the county didn't identify pipeline projects like September Ranch or Rancho Cañada Villages. You know, we had 5 ADUs at the old Walter property across from Quail come in for permits a month ago. Well, that's 5 affordable housing units. Whether they get occupied or not is a different question, but you know, they're not on anybody's radar. So there's just different approaches that we're trying to make heads or tails of. And then you have housing elements that said, oh, there's no water available, so we're moving all our housing to the old Fort Ord, and Marina Coast will do that. And we've had that conversation before too, where if we found you water, I know you're not going to put all your housing in Fort Ord. You're going to move it back to, you know, upzoning downtown and so forth. So we've got just, it's an interpretation problem. And so it's kind of, as I said, stymied us a little bit.
Just from a management standpoint, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, there's been some coverage we've probably all seen some coverage in the press, criticism of this widely considered unrealistic number of 10,000 plus units for the county, in the county draft housing element, based on a reasoning that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And it seems like if we could be helpful in some way, it also seems, it was brought to my attention that the draft doesn't seem to really take into account the new water coming online probably at the end of next year, or, you know, even if there's a little bit of a delay, it'll be soon after, well within the 8-year planning period. So I'm hoping at the county level and the housing element, they're gonna maybe take a step back and rethink that methodology they use that led them to say, we're going to plan for 10,000 plus units, for reasons that just really don't make sense.
If I could comment. So I appreciate very much what I'm hearing. And I must admit that there are many of us who share the same frustrations that you're expressing. And at this point, it still is a draft document. And I believe that we are going to be looking at making some modifications to it, but that means that we're going to have to change the timeline as well. And that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing very soon within the board. But I think that, you know, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not, but the approach that was taken at a certain point seemed a very reasonable and the only way to do this. And I think that after all of the input that we've received and all of the community engagement that we've had on this, it's becoming clearer that there are other ways that this can be viewed, and that we've got to get on it so that we can have it done and the box checked, and it's off to the state water HCD, state HCD rather, not water.
So I'm very glad to hear this, and, you know, to the extent the water district can be helpful in that, by, you know, updating people and reminding people that the expansion is on schedule and can be counted, should be taken into account.
I really appreciate that, and honestly, I feel this way about all of this. I feel like, unfortunately, I think sometimes the county lives up to its reputation of not being transparent, that there's too much insular approach. In a better world, we would have the water management district meeting with us. We would have the cities and meeting with us, so that we've got a whole big picture look of what our county is going to look like, instead of each person siloing, you know. So I better watch it, or I'm going to get on my high horse and never come off.
Well, I'd just like for our board for the district to do whatever it can do.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure what that is, but Dave did mention press release going out, or did go out, a letter that maybe will help further the thinking around this that's going on. I'm glad to hear there's reconsidering going on.
Director Oglesby.
I would just say, on behalf of the cities, the best thing that the district can do is not consider itself the authority on how much water needs to be used in each community. We need to be a partner in this situation. The cities are required to come up with a certain number of housing, even if they won't be built. By definition, if you have that number of housing, you have to have water with it. And so we just need to remember that the cities are required to come up with a certain amount of housing in a certain amount of time. The realities are something different, and we can work through that as we work through that. I think the general manager had it correct. When you build them, then the water would be there as you need it. But that still doesn't meet our requirement of what do we project in the future. So I would just ask the board to take that into consideration about, by definition, we are in different silos because we have different our requirements as separate entities. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I have a comment too. Jim, the allocation process doesn't have to, that's just a suggestion. You don't have to criticize how the numbers were derived in order to go through with the allocation process on a different principle. Not to necessarily respond to and try to accommodate all the variety of ways to interpret the new housing numbers, but because the water's going to come online, we will allocate, say, 1/3 of the water, and we will see what happens. And then as we see what happens, we can adjust what the future allocations might be after we see what the 1/3 looks like. And that's a practical approach, good management approach. I don't think you need to be critical of ABAG and others in the process.
No, we're going to
That's all
try hard not to be critical. But let me give you just two examples. I've given you one already that concern us. Residential water use is typically based on population forecast. AMBAG did a beautiful population forecast. AMBAG also did the housing needs allocation. And in Carmel, their growth forecast is 35 new people in a 25-year period. The housing allocation is 349 new units of housing. And let's say the above moderate gets snapped up as second homes, but not all of them will. There will be new residents. Let's say 300 of the 349. Well, that's 600 new people. Okay, well, at least 500 new people. So is it 35 new people, or is it the field of dreams? If you build it, they will come. So if you focus on the housing number, in those instances where population growth has been understated relative to the housing allocation assignment, which one do we go with? And so what we've pitched at Water Demand Committee and elsewhere is, let's figure out what the needs are based on population. Let's figure out what the needs are based on housing. And let's add them together, cut them in half, And that's one measure of need. It's so precise, isn't it? You know? But then if you don't allocate it all and you say, well, here's enough for you to get started. And the other one I did mention earlier, and that's where City of Monterey says we're going to locate it all up here in Ryan Ranch in the old Fort Ord. As soon as we give them wet water to play with, then it makes all those downtown projects look better. And so do we say, oh, you don't need water because you programmed all your housing to be in Marina Coast Water District service territory? No. So we've got to come up with a rubric that is understandable, but not necessarily defensible, because you can't defend it based on one case or the other case. You could do one, but not both. And so that's what we're grappling with, which is to try to meet the mayor's point, which is if they have a need, the goal is to have the water available. But the current county plan would put more population in Carmel Valley and the Highway 68 corridor, unincorporated areas of the county, than AMBAG's 25-year growth forecast has in population in the entire unincorporated county. So it would be more than a 10% increase in water demand in the current residential setting here on the Monterey Peninsula. So that's when we have to go, okay, that's a big number. Do we take it away from Seaside, or do we give everybody a big number and then you over allocate it? So it's
Well, let's just see what.
we'll deal with it. Yeah.
Picture looks like.
Well, I thought, I don't,
Go ahead, Mayor.
I was just gonna say, I thought, you know, I'm just trying to figure out at a certain point, where do we get off trying to say what the number should be for these separate entities? If we have our system, if we have the way we're going to allocate how we give out the little bit of water we think we have, then regardless of what you may think you want, we already have our numbers of what you're going to get. And so to continue to talk about how they come up with these numbers don't make sense to us, I don't see how that's productive. That's just the bottom line. I don't see that. We're not going to change our formula for calculating that water, and to keep pointing out how their calculation doesn't line up with us. I don't see how that's productive. So,
Well, I agree with you. And that's pretty close to where we're at until the county's plan threw a wrench in the works. But I think we can move on without the county, because what we had come up with for the 6 jurisdictions formulaically works. And I think that there'll be plenty of water for the county. The important thing with the county is when we did this the first time, we slotted them at 10% growth, which only resulted in a few hundred people and a low number of housing units. And the plans at the time had only, like 132 housing units in Carmel Valley. And the current plan completely changes, But the parameters that the mayor just put out there are where we're headed. It's basically where we're at. Is we just want formulas that we can tell your staff and your staff, this is how we got to what we're doing, and it makes sense that there's method in the madness.
One of my key points is this with this. We need to move it on, move it forward. Here are the cities, allocate the water that we're going to allocate. We're not in land use. That's my key point. We're not in land use. So we allocate what we got. We put some in reserve. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is what you're doing, Mayor, on Broadway. I see timber. I see things moving. I don't, this talk about, well, we want a 10,000 house. You're going to build them in one day? You're going to build them in 1 year? No, you're not. No, you're not. The planning that you got to take place. But I feel that we should move forward and start that planning on how we're going to allocate the water. When a water demand committee meeting get canceled because we have nothing to talk about, and I feel we have a lot to talk about because we've been talking about it today. So my biggest point is we need to move forward and quit waiting on folks.
Well, and remember, this conversation started as, what did we think we wanted to go to the city councils to talk about? There will be an interest in
Yes.
every city council member hearing, not just one policy advisory committee member, so.
Well, then is my last comment, it's not written in concrete. It's a proposed plan, and then it can be changed anytime the dynamics in the communities change.
Our
Yep.
allocation.
Yeah, our
That's right.
allocation plan can change.
And we just need to do it and quit. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
You know, Nike.
I don't hear anybody questioning that. I mean, that's our plan. And
It is a long drawn out process, isn't it?
Oh, we make it long drawn out.
Well, I mean, there's so many stakeholders. How could it not be, right? It just is.
I'm reminded of how it was done in 1993. None of the cities could agree with each other. And so the man in my position said, well, this has gone on long enough. Here's the pie and here are the slices. You'll have this much and you will like it.
That's right.
District Council, do you have a report for us?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. So the board did meet in closed session on 2 items this evening. The first one, closed session 1, public employee performance evaluation regarding the general counsel. You did meet, have a robust discussion. This matter will return, but there's no reportable action. Similar with closed session item number 2, conference with labor negotiators. This is regarding the general staff management bargaining unit local 792. Again, you were provided with an update and in return had robust discussion and provided general manager with direction, but there's no reportable action at this time. I would like to briefly shift to some of the open cases that the district is involved with regarding the public's ownership of Cal-Am. That's the case in front of the Superior Court 23 CV 004102. The demur hearing was held in front of Judge Vanessa Vallarta on May 3rd, 2024. She did not issue a ruling and is instead bringing us back into court for a second hearing on August 9th, 2024. But we do anticipate a tentative decision coming out end of July, early August. Regarding the City of Marina versus the Coastal Commission, that's the challenge the Cal-Am desal. The Coastal Commission is preparing the record and the hearing date has been set for November 13th, 2024. And then lastly, regarding the CPUC hearings, we already received a bit of an update there. The briefs have been filed and reply briefs are due May 28th. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So any reports by directors from trips or conferences or something wonderful that you heard?
I have.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I went to the special district meeting. It's a dinner meeting. I brought notes from the month before, so now I'm trying to remember what happened between that meeting and the real meeting that took place. What I do remember, though, is that there was a lot of politicking that night for the special district nomination to LAFCO because the vacancy was announced. And there was a process for the special districts to come up with a nominee for that position. And so anyway, there was some politicking by at least one member. But since that meeting, that was just a politicking meeting. Since that, LAFCO has made a decision on that, and I can't remember I don't remember exactly when it was. But they now have a full membership, as I understand. And the person that came from the special district nominee was, yes, the son of the former supervisor, Butch Lindsey's son, yeah. And
Chad
I'm
is
sorry,
the new
Chad.
name.
Chad.
Chad is the current person. His father was on the Board of Supervisors, and his name was Butch Lindsey.
Right, okay. And that all happened after the meeting, so I'm was trying to fill it in, but saying I need all the help I can get. The other comment was that, they were touting their special investment fund again, and I talked to Michelle at a recent meeting, and he's gonna give us some kind of little summaries coming up sometime soon. But anyway, I was curious about what our evaluation was of the special district investment opportunity option, I should say. But anyway, that's all I can recall, because I brought my wrong notes. If somebody else was
Thank
there
you,
or.
thank you. I was, yeah, no, I was not able to attend, so thank you, George, for reporting. And Mark also attended, so do you have anything to add?
I did. That was my very first time at a special district meeting. The food was,
How's the chicken?
what would my mother say about if you don't have something nice to say? No.
You don't have something nice to say, sit right next to me.
You can't go no more.
No, but you had three choices, I think, so you got there were three times to find out.
Okay.
You should have got the hamburger.
Woo, okay.
Anybody else?
Yes, yes, I heard a rumor out there that Cal-Am have hired somebody to take over Chris Cook's
Yes.
place, so I wonder when we're gonna be able to say hello and goodbye to him. But to say hello to him, so, I give out an invitation for him to show up and say hello. I know he probably moving or whatever.
Yeah, whenever the time's right.
Oh, come on up so we can put you on the record. You're so funny. It's just the public can't hear you from back there.
I
So,
heard you, there's a new guy, and we'll bring him when the time's right.
all right, thank you.
Anybody else want to follow that?
That's a good one. We'll go back to the
Okay,
hamburgers at the special district meeting.
we're now at the water supply forecast. At item number 17.
Yes.
Public hearing.
Oh, excuse me.
Yep, John is here.
I'm here and I'm unable to, I don't have an option for a camera, but I'll be able to talk through this. I don't know if I clicked the wrong button when I was promoted from the to the panel. Anyways, good evening, Board of Directors. This is a public hearing, item number 17, and it is required for us by our rules to look at this every May. It is looking at the water that is in the physical system in what's called the Monterey Peninsula Water Resource System, and to forecast that for demand looking forward for the next year and a half. So it's the end of this water year towards and then including all of next water year. So we can advance, we can get into the process. Thank you, Sarah. So this is the long-term water supply forecast for May through September 2025. So that is the remainder of this water year and all of next water year. And as we stated, it is focused on the Monterey Peninsula Water Resource System. And that resource system is defined in our rules by the surface water in the Carmel River and all of its tributaries, as well as the water in the Carmel Valley alluvial aquifer and the Seaside groundwater basin. Next slide, please. This is a map that is showing these locations of these, where the Seaside groundwater basin is the kidney-shaped blue at the top left, and then the Carmel Valley alluvial aquifer is in the middle of the Carmel Valley watershed, and of course all the tributaries and Los Padres Dam, and of course San Clemente Dam is no longer part of the resource system. Next slide, please. This forecast, it considers not only California American water demand, but also non-California American water demand, which the district has determined through its water metering program on private wells. And we will be looking at that and combining those two demands for the end of this water year and next water year. This forecast is based on all the usable storage as of May 24th, which is termed in our rules carryover storage. So next slide, please. So a couple notes about this. This was a rule that was created by the district back when the only sources of water were the Monterey Peninsula Water Resource System. It does not take into account any of the water supply projects that are currently used to make up a good component of the water supply for the peninsula. It was created, the reason the rule was created was you wanted to look at the water you had in storage coming into the summer of the water year you were in, and then you wanted to do a worst case scenario and say, if we did not get any more rain and recharge, had a dry year, and we did not get recharge to our system, how much water is left in our system for the following water year? So that is the way this rule is written. But we'll see that due to the water supply projects, it's changed the way the rule has been applied. But then I'll make a few points about why the district, when we talked about this, we think that this is still a worthwhile process to go through to understand the natural side of the system and that is being supplied when compared to the water supply projects. So next slide, please. When we look at what we have in the water supply system right now, currently, Los Padres Reservoir is 100% full. And in the aquifer systems, the upper Carmel Valley aquifer is 96% full. The lower Carmel Valley aquifer is 95% full. And this is in response to what Dave pointed out earlier, that the river has come up and now is a sustained flow as we recharge this aquifer system moving into the summertime. And then the seaside coastal aquifer is about 55%. And that the seaside coastal is a number that is not measuring the exact amount of physical water in the seaside groundwater basin, because there's much more water in the seaside basin. It's actually looking at the annual amount of water that can be safely pumped from the seaside basin, compared to the amount that has been pumped by all users in the seaside basin. So as you can see, there's about half of the water has been pumped already, moving through 7 months of the water year, leaving about 55% left. Combining all those together, our resource system is sitting at 92%, or 30,387, or 90-ish acre feet. So if we go to the next slide, here's where we compare it to the remainder of demand for the current water year, which is about 2,874 for CalAm, and about almost 2,000 for non-CalAm users, totaling just over 4,000 acre feet to be removed from the water resource system. That's not, again, the total demand for the remainder of the water resource system, as some of the supply will come from water supply projects. And then when we move into the next water year with the combined demand from CalAm and non-CalAm, we're looking for about close to 8,000 acre feet that will be needed from the Monterey Peninsula Water Resources System in the following water year. Summing all these together, we would need to have 12,089 acre feet in the system to meet the demand for the remainder of this water year and the following water year. And when we compare that to the 30,300 and almost 90 acre feet that's in the system, we have well in advance. So this is where I wanted to make my point to tag back to the previous slide, is when we looked at this and all of the demand for the entire system was coming from the Monterey Peninsula Water Resource System and natural sources, these numbers were much closer to each other. So the rule was, would we move into rationing in order to protect non-recharging of a dry water year, not knowing what the next water year was going to bring? That obviously is not the case here, because we're reliant on water projects for over half of the meeting of the demand. However, Dave and I were talking about this, and we're thinking that this is actually a worthwhile exercise, because it does show you how much, it not only shows you, one, how much water you have, how many years of water you have in your natural resource system, relying on both that water and water from water supply projects. But it also shows you if there was a worst case scenario where, one, you have a drought, and two, you have a failure of some of your water supply projects, the remainder of demand would then shift back to the natural system. Now, this is all of this water in the natural system would not be legal water, but there is processes to where you can go to the Regional Water Quality Control Board and declare a state of emergency and say, we need to go over our allocation limits for this short time while we fix what's going wrong here. And so it's a good practice in order to look at that as well, to say, should we have a failure, do we have enough water to get through next year? And it shows us we do have that as well. Next slide, please. So applying the actual letter of the law of the rule, taking the number of water in storage of 30,387 acre feet and comparing it to 12,089 acre feet, we have sufficient water. So the district board can make the determination according to the rule, we have sufficient water. Next slide, please. So seeing that determination, staff would recommend that the board receive the long-term water supply forecast for the remainder of this water year and next water year. And given that we have sufficient water, we do not need to enter any new stages of more intense rationing, and we shall continue to implement its water conservation provisions that are currently in place. And I believe that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, John. I, for one, I found this to be just a wonderful summary report to show what we've got without any of the new mechanisms that we're using to create more water for storage. It's just, here's what's naturally there, here's where it is. And that's really something. I mean, this can go through the 2025 water year. So thank you very much for doing this analysis. Any comments from anybody?
I'm glad to get the rest of the explanation, more detail.
Did you want to?
Well, I have just what I think is a one minor correction. Exhibit 17E, which is incorporated by reference into the resolution, the proposed resolution. I think there's just the wrong date. If you look at footnote 3, it says explaining that the value in bold type represents the storage trigger that would be used for the system in
Yeah.
water year 2022, and I think you meant to say 2024 or 2025. Unless I missed-
Yeah, no, you're correct. That is, it should say 2024. Thank you.
Okay, so we just fixed that because it does become part of the resolution, assuming we adopt it. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, and I don't know if this is just a council question or a John question, I just want to make sure that I heard what you were saying, John, about the projects don't get considered for purposes of this report. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. Yes.
I mean, it just seems like the conclusion of the report and the recommendation is by itself supported externally by the existence of the projects as well. I don't know.
We're growing into an anachronism of a rule and reporting. So I think John did a great summary. And the fact of the matter is what he said about if our other sources that are now supporting the supply were to be gone, then it's a useful test to say, could we file an emergency change petition for one season to go exceed our limits up to CalAm's limits on the river? It's useful for that purpose. But there's a number of places whereas we've created these alternative supplies that we need to start changing the reporting. So it's as useful as he just defined it, but I think it may find its way out of the rules and regs. One of the other interesting things is in October, you'll see an effort on a forecast for the whole year. And we'll once again show CalAm and non-CalAm pumpers. Well, as Cal-Am has gotten within their legal limit, the non-Cal-Am pumpers are now pumping more water than Cal-Am is. And so we need to assess what that really means. All these rules were written in a period of time when Cal-Am was taking 11,000 acre feet off the Carmel River, 13,000 acre feet off the Carmel River. And so we used to need to basically come into this board in, May 1st or in May and say, we've got a problem. We need to go to stage 3 rationing because we don't have 17 months worth of supply. I mean, that's really what the test was, is should we start now? And we're kind of, as I said, we've moved away from that.
Which is good news.
Yeah.
Progress.
Through the chair, I thought this was a legal requirement.
It remains a legal requirement. So until we change it by ordinance, we could do a cleanup ordinance or.
Oh, it's our ordinance.
It's our.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I thought he did a great job explaining it, and I thought it, it definitely was needed. And I guess once we officially calculate the projects are on, what is it, resupply projects or our projects to save more water, make more water, Monterey One water, then we won't need to worry about this calculation because we always will be, I guess, above 100%.
Exactly. I think it's still worthwhile because it'll always be worthwhile to check it, maybe not at this level at a meeting like this, because when Cal-Am's looking at a legal limit of 3,376, it's always nice to look and say, well, right now we've got 4 years worth of supply, 5 years worth of supply at their legal limit. So we could actually technically go through 2 drought years, 3 drought years, and they would not be affected because that water would be sitting available in storage. And that's another useful resource check.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I understand that, okay, maybe there's no legal requirement, maybe you do away with the ordinance, so you're not missing it and there's no time delay. But it's good information to know that, if you can go for that year, 17 months, and 3 years down the road, you can go for 3 years. I mean, that's vital information.
Yeah.
So.
And when we hit the 2012 through 2016 drought period, people were paying attention in that third year. What are they going to say? We going into rationing? I mean, the hospitality associations, you're not going into rationing, are you? Like, we'll let you know in May. I mean, there were concerns. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public?
We just received this report, I believe.
Chair Anderson, I see no raised
I wonder if there's
hands.
any questions.
Or would you like to
Well, there's a
provide them an
resolution.
option, like to send an email?
Sorry.
or to text me?
Oh, okay.
Yes, we have a resolution. Sorry, I missed that. I know it's right in front of me.
Once you take the motion, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous approval. Sarah, did you have somebody that wanted to make a comment?
No, I was asking direction from the chair if I should provide an alternate option for the public to send in an email or to text. Because some are saying they don't see the
can't.
raise hand feature.
Um,
It could be the app needs to be updated. It could be, I've checked the settings on my end to allow for everyone to do what we normally do. I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, I think we let it ride this time. And, we did change the way we post to say this is an in-person meeting with a remote option, just in case things break down.
Josh, did you say when you tried to get on, did you see it?
There's no raise hand function or anything.
Yeah.
That was on my mobile phone, but
Yeah, but you would have it even there.
Yeah. So we should just run a test meeting, this week on
Can we-
something else just to see what pops up on other people's.
Can I just ask, are we able to open up a chat box with participants or no?
We can, But since we're in the meeting, the webinar now, I don't know if it, if it's for the next meeting that it takes effect. I don't think it just comes up.
Well, members of the public could always
Yeah, I
email
was
their
gonna say,
comments to
they
us
could
now
email.
or after the meeting, right?
Right. Chat could get a little heavy to follow the chat, plus, do what I need to do here in the meeting. So it's an option, yes.
Okay, pending state legislation,
Thank
item
you,
number
Madam Chair.
18.
Yes, item 18.
Sorry.
The Legislative Advocacy Committee met and went through our bill trackers, both state and federal. On the state side, we had about 29 bills we were following, 6 of which had particular interests that we wanted to mention to the full board. The rest are primarily just watch is our category, or monitor. But these 6 are included in your staff note. I should point out that there's really kind of 2 types of bills that we want to elevate to your attention. Those are either those sponsored by our legislative delegation, so Assemblymember Addis or Senator Laird, and those of which we've got a particular policy interest that we may want to take a position on. So of the 6, they're a little bit of both. The first one is AB 2257, and this is basically about a time window for protesting rates and charges. So like our water supply charge was a Prop 218 approved water supply charge. Apparently current law is written leaves open the period to challenge it under a validation action or reverse validation action. This would limit the window to 120 days after passage so that you wouldn't come and be subject to a challenge 3 years, 5 years after the fact, and potentially have to refund rates that were raised in a Prop 218 hearing. This is sponsored by Aqua. As of last Thursday, the 16th, it passed the Assembly and now it's on the Senate floor. And they're already asking for join the coalition or letters of support. So our request tonight with your approval is to participate in a support position. The second one is the Addis bill. And this makes some changes to remote meeting rules. We've reviewed them. They're not onerous. And so as a courtesy to our Assembly member, I'm proposing that we adopt a position of support when asked, and also it's supported by Aqua, our industry association, as well as the California Municipal Utilities Association. The third one, AB 2561, is a bill sponsored primarily by labor unions throughout California, saying that if you reach a rate of more than 10% of your positions being unfilled for a certain amount of time, that you have to get on you got to fill them. You got to get out there and fill them. And so it's basically an enforcement action that if you have too many positions open, I think it's bad for districts like ours and others, that especially smaller ones, where you could have 3 positions open, and that's more than 10% here. And so we wouldn't ever want to be in the position of being subjected to mandates to run out and fill. And again, it's supported by labor and countered by the counties and the California Municipal Utilities Association. So we recommend an opposed position there. The next one is Senator Laird sponsoring a bill that, interestingly, the Municipal Utilities Association is opposing. I don't believe it has any impact on us. These minimum standards, that's technical, management, and financial, is what TMF stands for. But this is for less than 10,000 connections. So it wouldn't apply to us, but because it's our senator, I recommend that we follow it, but don't adopt a position. And then finally, oh,
And
there's
what's
two more.
PWS, what is that? The acronym PWS, what's?
Oh, public water system.
Oh, okay,
There's two. There's community water system or public water system.
okay.
The Skinner bill, SB 1210. This is one where Aqua opposes. I'm recommending no position, but we should watch it. And the reasons are, we do charge a capacity fee, but we do not provide service connections. That's Cal-Am's territory. And so we need to follow the language of this bill to see if it is truly applicable to a service connection, or if it ends up resulting in language that is capacity fee or connection charge oriented, to see if it then affects us. And our industry association opposes it. And then the final bill is SB 1440, another Senator John Laird bill, which again doesn't really affect the district, but because it's our senator, we would follow it and have no position. I would think that in either case of the last two, if Aqua were to come to us and say, hey, we want you to take a position, that we would probably fall in line with Aqua. And the same thing if the senator called and said, I need some people writing letters, that we would probably throw him a letter of support for his position. And that's it. So the action would be to cement these positions in place and provide me direction going forward. All the other bills, as I said, are just watch and follow at this point.
But if there were substantial changes to any of this legislation, then you would bring it back to us.
Yeah, and if there was something new, when they get to the period where they gut and amend existing bills and just completely rewrite them,
Yeah.
and there's something that we need to know about, the call will go out.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
We take it out to the public.
Take it out to the public
Oh,
first.
yes, thank you. Anybody have any comments? You could, or questions? If you have the ability to raise your hand.
Or I suppose if people can say in the chat if they want to speak, if they can't raise their hand.
Now, keep in mind, our first obligation are to the people here, and there are no speakers lining up, so.
Yeah,
And I see no raised hands.
okay,
No.
not working. Okay.
Okay.
Madam-
Approval.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I will say, I don't really understand the purpose of some of these. I'm looking at it like, why are we doing this? Is it me?
It is not just you, and
I'm reading
frankly,
these, I'm like,
and even out of deference. to our-
why? I don't even understand it.
Yeah. You know, some of these
I feel like there's one
aren't our dog
unknown
in the
special
hunt.
interest in there that got the attention of the legislature. I don't mean to say, but it just looks like that. Like, I don't see how this is affecting. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong business, I guess. I'm just reading this like, if there's an opposite of, as if there's an opposite of earth shattering. I don't know what the word is, but I'm reading all of this. Wow, there's a lot of work in Sacramento to do
Yeah.
what? I don't understand it. Sorry, I'm okay now. I just had a moment. I just had a moment.
You said.
She sure did.
How to win friends and influence, I guess.
Okay, after that entertainment, we have item 19. Consider adoption of the district strategic goals and objectives for 2024.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think the staff note speaks for itself.
Excuse me.
Just for the public's edification, the board did meet in a workshop setting out at Asilomar, and a very collegial conversation ensued for a couple hours. And there was a lot of emphasis on establishing goals, some good emphasis on objectives, but not enough language. So what you see here is me trying to fill in the blanks on the language. But I certainly captured the essence of what Sarah had recorded for you all in terms of the list of goals. And I did get a couple of proposed edits when I sent it out to the group the following week. So I think it was representative.
Yes. Director.
So
Adams.
thank you. I just wanted to say that I really regret not being able to attend the workshop. I am very pleased. I've reviewed the goals and the objectives, and I'm supportive of the terrific work that everyone did. And I'm so thankful that everyone was there to be able to really pay attention to what it is that we want to see. I did have one question though, and I'm looking forward to receiving a timeline attached to the objectives so that we're going to be able to track our progress and ensure that we're going to be able to meet the goals as we plan and address the steps as we go along. Is there any plan for that sort of
Well,
follow-up?
they've been lumped as 1 year and, near term, 1 year, longer term, out to 3 years. But there has not been an effort made to put specific steps down or dates, other than if it's not done within a year, then I've underperformed, or the courts have done us a disservice or something. But we'll at least keep track of them by the near term and longer term so that we can plot progress.
Could we at least set in 3 months, do a check-in, something so that we keep them alive? You spend a lot of time and effort on this. It would be nice to just ensure that they don't just get put on the shelf behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And normally when we are able to get together earlier in the year, we do a mid-year
Mhm.
check-in, and then we do a end of calendar year check-in, because that's when we're also evaluating the general manager for the year and kind of closing out the chairmanship and vice chairmanship and turning over the gavel. So we'll do something similar. I think probably in 3 months, we should come back and take a look. There's also some things that are very dependent on the outside forces that we can't control, but we will make our best effort.
Thank you.
Yes, and if we would do report, if something major works in any of these objectives, you can hear about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank you, Dave, for facilitating and synthesizing and preparing and leading the whole thing. And as before, you did a great job. Thank you.
And I will repeat what Barry said, that I was very sorry to miss this meeting because I enjoyed the one last year and
Well,
I couldn't be there.
you freed up a sandwich for Josh, but then he left too early.
Oh.
You did, and a salad.
Through the chair, I think it was something that was left out in goal number 1, objectives. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's the 5th bullet down. Engage more with Marina Coast Water District and the Water Master, which is the Seaside Basin. I thought we added in there, George, and the City of Seaside.
I think we did.
Yes, we did. And so excellent note taking, but that was a highlight that we wanted included in there.
And I would like to point out, if you are done, that there's a flip of the words on objective number 2. It says allocate of a portion new supply. So it should be allocate a portion of new supply.
Mhm.
Easy check, easy change.
Can we show up on the website whenever we get finalized on this? Doesn't it show up on the website?
Yeah,
Okay.
Goals and
Yeah, I
objectives.
thought it did.
yeah, I think I've seen it.
Yep.
Good reminder.
And I think Michelle is going to summarize them in the budget document as well.
And
Yes.
DM could clarify that we're moving on from Measure J into, what's that title that we have now for it?
Public
Oh, yeah.
ownership.
Well, I think if you start with page. Uh-oh.
93?
Probably.
93 is the goals, near-term goals. and
Near-term goals?
objectives.
No, no, on, get you there in just a second.
Page 127.
Yes, 127. And check out the title block.
Public's ownership of Monterey water system.
Getting closer,
Yeah.
better than Rule 19.
You know, and I,
Yeah.
you know, who was it who just brought this up? Was it you or?
I just
You
brought it
just,
up.
thank you, Director Edwards, and I know there are a lot of people who can't raise their hand and who are paying attention, but I think it's important to underscore that,
Well, you brought it up at the meeting that we're past.
well,
Measure J.
we all talked about it, yeah, and Measure J is in the rearview mirror, and that was then, and where we are now is activities surrounding the public's ownership of Monterey water system, and that's where we are.
No, I was just gonna say through the chair, as it relates to item number 19.
Right.
Okay. It's bad enough they don't get to raise their hand, but if they think we jump to a different item number, right? So he told us to turn to the page so we could talk about it, but we're still on item number 19.
Correct. Sorry about that.
Through the chair, this is the board's effort to explain to members of the public. We're trying to explain that rather than continue to talk about Measure J or District Rule 19.1 or whatever it is, we decided it's time to use a more accessible language of public's ownership of the water system,
Of Monterey water system.
of the Monterey water system, yes. Thank you. So that, there are people who weren't around for Measure J, there are people who, and nobody knows what Rule 19 is, so public ownership, we hope, is clearer.
And just one more quick edit, and goal 2, first bullet, Publix. It's not the fifth word in. It's the one place where the apostrophe S wasn't added. So.
Yeah.
Too small to make a big deal out of, but still a deal.
Oh, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Bullet number 1. Yes, thank you. All right, shall we go?
I'm sorry, could you clarify that for me?
Goal number 2.
Yep.
First bullet. First line. Publix. Right to take.
Yes.
Yeah, Publix.
Before we leave number 19, in addition to missing 2 of our directors, and you were sorely missed, it wasn't the same without you. I also want to do a shout out to Sarah, because I can't imagine, having gotten through that without your assistance. I thought it went very, very smoothly.
And how was the food?
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Better than.
Okey doke. Are we ready for item 20?
We are, and we are going to defer item 20 to,
Before we carry on, Madam Chair, item 19 does request a motion.
oh, do we not? Yeah.
Didn't we do that?
No.
I so move.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None.
And just for clarification, that moving of the recommendation subject to the minor edits that were suggested here
Yes.
this evening.
Thank you.
And item 20 is being deferred. Apparently one of the, I don't know if you read it or reviewed it, but there's several taxing entities that are affected. And there were some late breaking comments by one of the other taxing entities. So we were asked to put it on hold. So it'll come back in the June board meeting.
Late breaking.
Late breaking.
Is it just a question of
This just in.
the numbers, or is this something?
I don't know. It was said to be language edits. So
We're supposed to do it after everybody else.
I don't think so. I think we can do it. We're just another taxing entity like any of them. I think that the city of Seaside would probably be the last one. If it's, because you're the writer of the thing, but let's see.
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Like the other director said,
Yeah, I suspect it's just, yeah, I think anybody can approve it whenever they can approve it. Yeah. Sherry could raise her hand and talk, but there's no hand raising.
Yeah, 85% of the money they're talking about, we don't know how much that money is. 85% of it's taken up by 4 agencies. We're just a little peanut in that picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
I think the school district is the minus.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and also, if you notice at the bottom,
City of
ERAF is
Seaside.
another
And
school
Seaside.
district funding.
County
as well.
General Fund is about the same as the, yeah, what is ERAF?
It's a balancing account for the schools as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay,
So that concludes all the district business.
yes, that does.
We adjourn?
Yes. It is 7:44
4.
and we are adjourned.
Well done.